A yacht is a yacht, right? How different can they actually be? I've been around this industry long enough to tell you the real jumps are not about size on paper. They are about whether you can run the boat yourself, when a captain becomes necessary instead of optional, when a full crew stops being a luxury and becomes a requirement, and when a boat stops being something you buy off a spec sheet and becomes something built one time for one owner. That is the framework I am using today, and it is going to put boats together in ways you have not seen before, for reasons that actually hold up once you know this industry. A lot of you run these boats the same way I do, across the Gulf Stream to Bimini or down through the Bahamas for the season, and the level you are shopping in changes that trip more than almost anything else on the spec sheet. So let us go through all 7, starting at the bottom. Level 1 starts around $1.6 million and tops out just under $4 million, and this is the only level where you can reasonably expect to run the boat yourself. Not everything down here is a flybridge either. There is a real mix of configurations depending on how you actually want to use the boat. The Prestige F4.9 is the cheapest real entry into this world, a compact flybridge with manageable IPS handling that a lot of first-time owners start with. If you want a single-level layout instead of a flybridge with an upper helm, the Riviera 4600 Sport Yacht gives you that in an enclosed sport yacht configuration, while the Absolute 52 fly stays in flybridge territory, but with more usable interior volume than almost anything else its size. Move toward the sportier end, and the Sunseeker Superhawk 55 trades some of that interior space for speed and presence at the dock, and the Riva 56 Rivale does something similar with a higher-end finish, built more for day use and entertaining than long-range cruising. The Princess Va 55 splits the difference, a large express yacht a couple can still run themselves with some docking aids and a bit of experience. The Galeon 560 Fly is worth knowing for how much entertaining space it packs in. With fold-down cockpit terraces that add real complexity most flybridge buyers do not deal with. And at the top of level 1, the Princess F58 is about as far as you can push a flybridge before professional help stops being optional and starts being necessary. Level 2 runs 65 to 79 feet and roughly $4 to $8 million. And this is where a captain stops being optional and starts being normal, even though the owner can often still take the wheel. The Princess F65 is the most accessible boat in this tier, a genuinely owner-friendly flybridge that still lets you handle the boat yourself with some help at the dock. The Ferretti 670 sits in that same range with a more formal Italian layout and a proper crew cabin, and the Princess Y72 is where the ownership model really starts to change. 4 staterooms and enough boat that a captain plus at least one more crew member becomes the default, not the exception. If you want the sport yacht alternative to a flybridge in this tier, the Riva 68 Diable trades some interior volume for a lower profile and real presence at the dock. And the Pershing 7X is faster still, with a captain strongly recommended rather than just suggested. I have to mention the Viking 68 convertible here too, because it lands right in this price band, but it is doing a completely different job. That is a tournament sport fish, not a flybridge cruiser, and it carries the heaviest operating burden of anything in level 2 because of the tower, the outriggers, and the fishing systems stacked on top of everything else. And I want to close this level out with the Sunseeker 76 yacht, because it is a good example of where level 2 tops out, real crew separation, real tender capacity, and enough guest volume that it starts to feel like the boat is running you instead of the other way around. Level 3 is 80 to 100 feet, roughly $8 to $15 million. And this is the first level where permanent crew stops being a maybe and becomes the default. Before I get into the boats, I need to say something, because this is exactly the kind of mistake that gets other channels torn apart in the comments. Almost every price you will find online for these boats is a used asking price, not what the boat costs new. Go pull up a listing right now and you will see numbers well under what I'm about to give you, because you are looking at a boat somebody already owns, already depreciated, being resold. I am giving you new build numbers, and the two are not the same thing. The Princess Y80 sits right on the bottom edge of this level, and technically its price lands just under the $8 million floor. But everything else about it, the crew separation, the systems, belongs firmly in level 3. If you want something completely different from a conventional monohull, the Sunreef 80 Power is worth knowing. A power catamaran instead of a planing hull, with a beam wide enough to give you the volume of a boat well over 100 feet, and real range for extended trips through the Bahamas and beyond. The Riva 90-foot Argo brings Italian design and finish into this tier with more practical cruising volume than Riva's sport yacht models, and the San Lorenzo SL86A introduces real interior tailoring without moving all the way into a fully custom build. The Ocean Alexander 28L is the one I would point toward if straight-line volume matters more to you than outright speed, built around extended cruising and storage. And the boat I really have to talk about is the Sunseeker 95 Yacht, because it has the single best feature in this whole level, a genuine 2-story master suite. There is a staircase off the main deck stateroom that takes you down to a private dressing area and its own bathroom. And that is not something you find anywhere else at this size. At the top of level 3, you have the Princess X 95 with an enclosed upper deck that genuinely lives like a super yacht. Level 4 is where the word super yacht actually applies, 100 to 130 feet, $15 to $35 million. This is the point where the captain and crew stop assisting the owner and start running the boat day to day. I want to start with 2 boats that do not fit the mold, because that is more useful than pretending every boat in this tier looks the same. The Oceanfast Oculus is 128 feet, and it is not a new build at all. It was launched in 1996 and refit in 2020. It still commands real money today because Oceanfast built genuinely custom tri-deck yachts, and a well-kept one from that era holds its place against boats built 30 years later. Then there is the Sunseeker 131, which at 131 feet technically runs past the top of this level, and I am fine calling that out instead of pretending the framework is perfect. It is a tri-deck production super yacht, and it belongs here on everything but the tape measure. On the more conventional side, the Alpha Custom Yachts Spritz 102, my personal favorite boat of all time and popular one on the charter market, is 102 feet, wide beam, semi-custom, with an aft plunge pool that a lot of production yachts this size simply do not have room for. The aft deck and stunning salon views speak for itself and why it earned the top spot on my list of favorite boats. The Benetti Oasis 34 meter gives you the other end of level 4, 113 feet with an open stern layout that changed how a lot of builders think about that space. The San Lorenzo SX 112 and SL 120 A-round this tier out, 112 and 121 feet, and the SX 112 in particular is worth knowing for its stern platform, which is bigger than what most yachts this size even attempt. Level 5 moves you to 130 to 165 feet and $35 to $75 million, and the construction itself changes. You are typically in steel displacement hulls built for real transatlantic range, close to 4,000 nautical miles on some of these, not the fuel-hungry planing hulls from the levels below. The San Lorenzo 50 steel is 164 feet and sits at the top of this tier's length, a genuine ship in miniature. The Heeson 50-meter aluminium runs that same length in aluminum instead of steel, which trades a bit of range for speed and a lighter overall build. The Benetti Oasis 42-meter is 137 feet and brings that open stern lifestyle layout up from level 4 at real scale. And the Tankoa T450 at 148 feet, semi-custom in steel and aluminum both, is a good example of what this level actually means. You're picking a proven hull and platform, but you have real control over the interior, the materials, and a lot of the technical spec that a level 4 buyer does not get. The San Lorenzo 44 alloy and 44X space are worth knowing too, 146 and 144 feet, one built as a fast displacement aluminum platform and the other leaning into an Explorer-style crossover look. And Columbus Atlantique 47-meter at 154 feet is a good example of the Italian semi-custom approach to this level, done a little more conservatively than San Lorenzo. Level 6 is 165 to 260 feet, $75 to $250 million. And this is where the boat stops feeling like a really big yacht and starts feeling like a small hotel. You are running 12 to 30 crew at this size, split into actual departments instead of one team: engineering, security, medical, interior, and deck, each reporting up their own chain of command. A helipad stops being a fantasy and becomes a real line item. So does a genuine screening room with theater seating, a full spa deck, and more than one tender, sometimes 3 or 4, stored in garages that lower down to the waterline to launch them. Royal Hackfort, a family Dutch yard out of Monnikendam that has been building since 1919, is a good example of what that looks like in practice. Their deliveries in this size range typically carry 5 to 8 guest cabins for 10 to 16 guests, on top of crew quarters that are completely separate from the guest areas. And every one of those yachts is fully custom, rather than built off a shared hull. Build programs at this level frequently run several years from contract to delivery, because you are not buying off a lot, you are commissioning a ship. A lot of what belongs in this tier is a builder's custom program rather than a single named model. Lursen does not sell you a spec sheet at this level. They sell you a 70 to 80 meter custom project built around your list of requirements. That is not a gap in the research. That is the actual point of level 6. A true one-off does not have a fixed model number. Where there are specific yachts, the Achmol 60 is 197 feet on their limited editions platform, which gives you heavy customization on a still semi-standardized hull. And the Amels 80 at 262 feet sits right at the edge of this level before you are into landmark territory. Both of those come out of Daymen, and Daymen matters here for another reason too, because they also build most of the support vessels that trail behind the biggest yachts in the world. Dedicated boats that exist purely to carry the extra tenders, jet skis, and dive gear the main yacht does not have room for. The Admiral Kensho is a 246-foot custom motor yacht that has picked up real industry awards, and it is a good example of a boat that could almost argue its way into level 7 on design alone, but does not have the historical weight to get there. And that brings me to level 7, and this is the one every other channel gets wrong, because they treat it as just the biggest boats on Earth. It is not. A yacht only belongs in level 7 if it hits at least 2 of 3 things. It is roughly 80 meters or larger, or worth somewhere around $200 million or more. It is a genuinely one-off, fully custom build from one of the handful of elite builders. Or it has a real claim to history, a major award, an engineering world first. Something that actually moved the category forward. Hit 2 of those 3 and you qualify, and that test is why a couple of boats on this list are much smaller than you would expect. Breakthrough from Fedship is a 390 feet, and it earns its spot as the world's first hydrogen fuel cell super yacht, on top of being the largest motor yacht ever launched in the Netherlands and 2026's Motor Yacht of the Year. Kismet from Lursen is 400 feet fully custom, and took that same award the year before. Apo, also a Lursen build, is 377 feet, and is about as bespoke as this industry gets, in both the exterior design and everything inside it. H3 from Ocean Co. is 345 feet and is a landmark rebuild. They kept the existing hull and built an essentially new custom yacht around it, which won Best Rebuilt Yacht outright. Then you have the exceptions, the boats that qualify on merit instead of size. Special 1 from Royal Hoosman, only 171 feet, but it is the largest true sportfish yacht ever built, capable of more than 30 knots, and it has picked up real design and naval architecture awards for it. Aquarius, also Royal Houseman, 214 feet, a fully custom performance ketch, and it was named 2026's Sailing Yacht of the Year. Both of those are a fraction of the length of Breakthrough or Kismet, and they still belong in this level, because level 7 was never supposed to be a length contest. Savannah from Fedship is 274 feet, and matters historically for its hybrid propulsion and a metallic exterior. Nobody else was doing at the time. And Obsidian, another Fedship, is 276 feet, and pushes propulsion and emissions reduction further still on a completely custom platform. Rounding out the last yacht of level 7 is a 446-foot Lursen that can accommodate 22 guests in 11 cabins with 55 full-time crew living on board, and that is Flying Fox. Some of its features include 2 helipads, a 40-foot swimming pool, a 2-story spa, and an interior atrium with large living trees. I will say this too. A handful of the largest, most technically impressive yachts ever built do not make this list at all, and it has nothing to do with the boats themselves. Several of the biggest names in the world right now are tied up in ownership restrictions, sanctions, seizures, that kind of thing. And until that gets sorted out, I am not putting them on a list like this one, no matter how the naval architecture reads on paper. That is not a knock on the builders. Some of those yards built genuinely landmark boats. It is just where the ownership sits right now, and that matters more than the numbers. That is the real shape of this industry, 7 genuine jumps, not 7 arbitrary slices of length. And once you see it broken down this way, every other version of this list is going to look wrong to you too.